Another very powerful ruling by a federal district court against Donald Trump, calling Trump out for violating the Constitution. This one, the Southern District of New York, a renowned jurist by the name of Judge Hellerstein, saying that Donald Trump is invoking the Alien Enemies Act unlawfully. But the words here were very, very powerful. Let me read it to you. And then let's talk about what you have Judge Fernando Rodriguez in the Southern District of Texas doing. You then have a judge in Maryland as well. You have a judge in Louisiana, Trump-appointed judge in Louisiana, Trump-appointed judge in the Southern District of Texas, Trump-appointed judge in Maryland also. Judge Hellerstein's not Trump-appointed. I think Clinton appointed, right, Harry?
That's right.
But I want to show you all of these to say this is what all the judges are saying now when it comes to this issue, not just due process in general, but Trump's very invocation of the Alien Enemies Act being improper. Judge Hellerstein writes the following. This nation was founded on the self-evident truths that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, citing the Declaration of Independence. You know, when they cite the Declaration of Independence in the first sentence, that it's going to be a big one. But for all of our viewers, it's not normal that you cite the Declaration of Independence, or a judge needs to do that. Our Constitution embodies these truths in a limited government enumerated powers, in its system of checks and balances separating the executive, legislative, and judicial branch, and in its guarantee that neither citizen nor alien be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the process of law. Yet in March 2025, more than 200 aliens were removed from this country to El Salvador's terrorism confinement center with faint hope of process or return. The sweep for removal is ongoing, extending to the litigants in this case and others, thwarted only by order of this and other federal courts. The destination, El Salvador, a country paid to take our aliens, is neither the country from which the aliens came, nor to which they wish to be removed. But they are taken there to remain indefinitely in a notoriously evil jail, unable to communicate with counsel, family, or friends. Pretty powerful stuff. And, you know, we previously read the orders by, again, the Louisiana federal judge, Maryland Trump-appointed judge, the Texas, Southern District of Texas judge. They all basically reflect that, Harry, over and over again. Judge Hellerstein has always shown that he's not afraid to mince words. You know that about him. But it's the right order. And I guess the question is this case is going to make its way up to the Supreme Court on the fundamental issue of the Alien Enemies Act invocation. Now, Abrego Garcia kind of assumed arguendo, right, for the sake of argument, that even if you applied the Alien Enemies Act, does there still have to be some modicum of process that is given? And in a lot of these cases that even if the Alien Enemies Act was correctly applied, every person still needs to have a habeas petition. So then the questions became, how long? How much time do they have to file? What does that look like? Where do they petition? Do you have to give them notice in English and Spanish or whatever language they're from? So a whole body of case law developed around that. But this fundamentally is, you invoke the Alien Enemies Act, Donald Trump. Tren de Aragua is not a military force that's at war with the United States of America, and the Alien Enemies Act involves declarations of war. There's no declaration of war here. That's what all these judges are saying now, Harry. What do you make of it?
Yeah, so first, it is so much more widespread, Ben. Abrego Garcia, you could have taken it to mean, well, I want a chance to say I'm not a member of this group. But Hellerstein is very clear. He gives the number 200 plus. Everybody down there, the nastiest, toughest, most Tren de Aragua customer is down there unlawfully. They had no right. They had no legal basis. You can't even take the worst criminal and just drag him by the scruff of his neck and put him down in El Salvador. That's patently unlawful. They just basically made it up. So that's the first. And the related point is, what a friggin' mess now all of they're making. All these people, when they transferred them, Ben, they were in detention. They didn't have to jump the gun. There's every indication they did because they didn't want the courts to weigh in. Now the courts are weighing in and saying, you had no right in the first place. This is, and we're talking about, how to possibly remedy this is going to be just an immense puzzle and headache. That's point one. Point two is, as you say, you can imagine a judge saying, I don't think there's a declaration of war. I don't really see a predatory incursion. I don't think it's a foreign country. Actually, on that point, by the way, we know that the administration knew it wasn't controlled by Venezuela. That's what this FOIA just revealed yesterday. So that was just a lie anyway. That's what a judge could have done. Instead, Hellerstein, as you say, cleared his throat and started reading the Declaration of Independence. In other words, he struck such a firm blow for the notion. We've been saying this since Abrego Garcia, and now multiply by 200. This is the ultimate kind of violation of just decency, any legal evolved rule of law regime, to take someone and just this is the Magna Carta, but worse, because they're being put in a torturous hellhole on purpose that we are being paid for. So Hellerstein really reacts with that kind of dudgeon and emphasis that says, you haven't just violated the Constitution. You've perpetrated a nightmare on people and a fundamental violation. This is friggin' so far beyond the pale. Okay, what happens now, though? It's pretty interesting. It's clear, I think, that this is going to go to the Supreme Court, but you now have this opinion by the Trump appointee, Rodriguez, in the Southern District of Texas. That's going to go to the Fifth Circuit, which is without a doubt the most conservative circuit in the country. Hellerstein's going to go to the Second Circuit. They're pretty darn close. And there's reason to think, you might think that what the court will do is take all these cases. There's probably going to be one from Colorado, as you said, one from New Jersey. But there's also reason to think that whatever comes at them first, they'll grab. I think it will matter in practice whether what they grab onto is a Second Circuit opinion or a Fifth Circuit opinion. Indeed, the Fifth Circuit opinion, can't imagine they're reversing on the merits, but they could monkey with standing or a lot of different things. So what we really have now is a funnel up through, and the race is kind of on, Second Circuit versus Fifth Circuit. If they don't consolidate, then the opinion from the Second Circuit, which I think is likely to affirm and may or may not have the same kind of really vigorous tub-thumping rhetoric, but I think it's likely to affirm, that'll be the thing that goes up to the Supreme Court, and I think that matters. But that's what we'll see, and in fairly short order, I would think either one of those two circuits will decide, and it'll be served up to the court. Of course, if you think of the court taking it on the merits, that means it can't happen probably till October. Very rare to take one. There are some instances, but unusual. But still, probably pretty soon in its next term.
Just to see a whole body of case law nationwide developing around a United States government disappearing human beings to concentration camps in El Salvador. I'm just thinking, as a law professor, what am I going to be teaching my law students at 5, 10, 20, 30 years about this time frame? And where were you? What side were you on when this was taking place? And I emphasize the body of case law, not just Judge Hellerstein's opinion, because this is now there has yet to be a single judge confronted with these facts who said, you know what, due process doesn't apply and you can disappear human beings to concentration camps. So here's how the order is phrased by Judge Hellerstein, citing all of these cases. Accordingly, I hold that the predicates for the presidential proclamation that Tren de Aragua has engaged in either a war invasion or predatory incursion of the United States do not exist. Other courts have resolved this issue similarly, and they're citing the case in DC, they're citing the case in Texas, they're citing the case in Colorado, and soon to cite the case in Maryland. There is nothing in the Alien Enemies Act that justifies a finding that refugees migrating from Venezuela or TDA gangsters who infiltrate the migrants are engaged in an invasion or predatory incursion. They do not seek to occupy territory, to oust American jurisdiction from any territory, or to ravage territory. TDA may well be engaged in narcotics trafficking, but that is a criminal matter, not an invasion or predatory incursion. Harry, I'll give you the last word on this one.
Yeah. So, let's just take a step back how we got here. This is really that you just had Trump saying in the last few days, I don't know the Constitution. I leave it to the lawyers. All indications are, Ben, that this is the brainchild of, you named it, Stephen Miller, who back during transition said, I've got the golden ticket to get everybody out of here. And again, I want to emphasize the people were already detained when they were flown out. So there's no argument that somehow the United States was at some risk and marauders were taking over the city. This was just a completely half-baked, quarter-baked, zero-baked. Come on, guys. There's no war. There's no predatory incursion, and this is not Venezuela. And they did it anyway, and they did it fast to avoid exactly what they're getting now, the judicial review, and to really, these prisoners now are behind an 8 ball. As you say, they may rot away for life there with the United States now saying, well, we screwed up. We had the wrong law, but nothing to be done. So it's, besides unlawful, besides just basically, it's just cruel and heartless. They just wanted, these are just, people who they thought, and many times wrongly, were in this gang. So we're just going to ship them out of here. Stephen Miller says it's okay. And guess what? Not for the first time. He's way wrong. And this is now our country. This is our shame. This is the cloud we will be, living with when we want to be, a beacon of decency and hope in the world. This sucks big time. And it's we're ashamed of our country that it has gone this far.
There you have it. Subscribe to Harry Litman's Substack. It's called the Talking Feds Substack. Subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube. It's called the Talking Feds YouTube channel. Just search Talking Feds, and his podcast, Talking Feds. Harry, I know you were super busy at a conference, so we're glad you could join us and check in with us on these very important issues.
I really enjoyed it as always, Ben. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.